What is up, guys? Efrain Caballero here, Legacy Agency. I help you find your forever home that meets your budget, lifestyle, and vision. And today we're going to drop the About Me video before I start this 8-part series video named Keys to the Game. So, a little bit about myself, why I got into real estate. I got into real estate to genuinely help people find a place to build memories. And I believe everyone has that right to have a little sanctuary, somewhere where they come home and, again, home, somewhere where they come home to, kick their shoes off, lay down, be themselves, whatever that may be for them, a place of comfort where they can escape the world and just be in their zone, right? So, a little bit about myself. I was born March 2nd, 1989, oldest sibling out of five. It was me. I have three sisters total and one brother, him being my youngest brother. And so I'm the oldest sibling out of five. For a while, it was just four of us. And then my father decided to have a child later on in my life. So she's my youngest sister, and that makes five, right? So I was born in Martin Luther King Hospital. That hospital is no longer around. I was born to parents who are of Mexican descent. They are both from Mexico. My father is now a naturalized citizen. And I don't really know too much about my mother, as she ended up leaving us when I was about 5 years old. She left me and my siblings. My youngest brother was about 6 months old, and it was pretty bad. He almost ended up dying because of pneumonia. Long story, my parents were individuals who, like everyone, they have their own issues, and I'm not here to blame, or I'm not here to, oh, because of them. No, I understand. We're all human beings. We all have our issues, but it is what it is, right? Like I said, I'm not here for a pity party. I'm just here to kind of let you guys know a little bit about myself, the rough, the raw, the rugged, and the ugly, and the good, of course. So my mom leaving kind of led a chain of events to where I ended up moving in. Well, me and my siblings ended up moving in to the city of Downey with my aunt and my uncle. They took us in as the state was about to step in and take us in, and they prevented that from happening. So thank you guys, appreciate that. Really meant a lot to me now as an adult. I was able to have that opportunity to be raised with my siblings all together, whatever that may have looked like, right? So growing up, I really wasn't the most behaved child. I mean, as you can imagine, I had a lot of issues, a lot of confidence issues. I was kind of shy. I had a lot of anger inside of me. I had, you name it, battled with addiction a lot. So I am the oldest of five siblings. At first, it was four of us. Then my father had a child later on when I was in my late 20s. We'll get into that as this video continues. So I was the oldest of five. My mom left me when I was 5 years old, leaving me and my siblings, creating a whole big ordeal to where we were about to go to the state, which my aunt and uncle kind of prevented that. They took us in, and we ended up moving in with them in the city of Downey. Lived there till about eight, and then from eight till about 19, I lived in the city of Whittier. So growing up for me, kind of grew up in a strict household. Uncle and dad were no nonsense type of men, discipline, self accountability. You can never be tired. You can never be bored, because if you were tired or you were bored, I'll give you something to be tired or be bored about, right? So I had a little bit of a, I would say a little bit more of a rougher upbringing, but I'm grateful for that. It taught me a lot. Perseverance, man. My English ain't that good, I was an ESL kid. Bonus fact. So yeah, it taught me a lot. Growing up, I really wasn't the best behaved kid. I had a lot of issues, battled with addiction. Was involved with not the best type of people around. And of course, that was all created from the situation scenario that happened on in my life. From the city of Whittier, I ended up didn't graduate. I am not a high school graduate. I am, however, getting my bachelor's in business here in June. So for all you guys that think that you need to graduate high school or this and that, nah, I don't believe that, man. only you can tell yourself what you are worth and what you're capable of. A piece of paper, just because you made mistakes in your life, doesn't determine who you are. That's not your identity. You are who you choose to be, and you are what you choose to do on a daily basis. Remember that. I'm a firm believer in that. Absolutely, I'm a firm believer in you don't need per se education to be successful. I'm a firm believer in there's a difference between education and intelligence, and lots of other things that we can get into later on as I drop other videos, right? So from in the city of Whittier, I ended up meeting my ex-wife now. I had four children with her, whom I love to be a father to. Um, from there, meeting her, I moved to Lake Elsinore, and from there, so had my first kid in 2008. First kid in 2008. My daughter was being born in 2009. I needed to do something with my life, so I joined the military off this idea that I got from this, I guess, National Guard little magazine that came into the mail, and I was in desperate need of something to provide for my children. I needed to do something with my life. I didn't want to repeat the same mistakes that my parents had made, you know, and I decided to join the military. So at first I was afraid of going active army for I don't know why. I thought they weren't going to accept me. So I tried National Guard, took the ASVAB, scored a 52. Nothing to brag about, but hey, I was able to pass. Their minimum requirement was 50. And for those of you who don't know what the ASVAB is, it's essentially like an entry test. They test you on basic math skills, basic English skills. They have diagrams where they test you like in basic mechanics. It's like, oh, if A, B, C, and D, what does D do in this? It rolls right or something along those lines. So I was able to pass that because of my eye condition that I have, which I'm sure you guys will soon. And as I make more videos, it'll pop up. Um, because of my eye condition, that would be considered a physical waiver. So the National Guard was not accepting any type of waivers at the time. So the guy at the National Guard office said, "Hey, you can go active duty Army," which is what I wanted to hear anyways. I was a little skeptical. I was like, can I really? So he transferred me over to one of his friends, and who is an Army career counselor, who said, "Yeah, you can." So it took me about 2 years to join the Army. I was in the DEP program, the Delayed Entry Program. And essentially, I mean, it boils down to I wasn't a prime candidate for the military, and I needed a little bit of more work as far as my packet went. And recruiters just weren't willing to do that. They weren't willing to do the extra work. If they can get prime candidates that they're able to get into the military, why would they waste their time on me? That's essentially what it is, right? But I was able to meet this individual by the name of Staff Sergeant Phillips. I believe he was from Mississippi, and he really worked on getting me in. I'm forever grateful to him. He was able to get me in, and I was able to provide my family a better quality of life. Why, right? Which is what I mean. I believe as a father, that's one of your goals in life, right? Under that title, father. I wouldn't say human being, just under that title, father. So I was in the army for about 10 years. Didn't do nothing crazy. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you guys that I kicked down doors, that I'm special forces, that I did this and that. I did logistics in the army for about 10 years. Did a couple of tours, nothing crazy, nothing where I'm not gonna give you guys these stories where I'm like, oh yeah, and then there I was and I shot them all. None of that, man. Just straight logistics. Did what I had to do. Got in, got out. The army was great. It was beautiful to me. Gave me a lot of structure and discipline in my life, which it kind of came from that background. As like I mentioned before, my uncle and my dad were really no nonsense type of people. They believed in working hard and perseverance, and both very stubborn, hard headed individuals. Um, but I learned a lot from them. You know, I did. I can't say that I don't use some of their teachings till this day, and a lot of things that they didn't do as well to this day. So I joined the military, got out in 2020, and that transition was a little bit hard as every day I'm used to a routine, wake up, PT. We had the mission for the day, or if we had something coming up, some training event or something, everything was all laid out, you know. So the army is a beautiful thing. What people don't realize is that it can also be a hindrance because if you already kind of know what you got going on the next day, there's a lot of, in a sense, not a lot of thinking going on in the military as far as what you got to do. Now there is critical thinking as for how are we going to get this done, but as far as what my tasks are going to be, you pretty much already know. You pretty much know what you're going to wear for the next day, what to expect, yada yada yada. So when you get out and it's all on you, you know, even to keeping up with your medical appointments, it's kind of a, you know, shock to yourself. So that transition from being in the military to civilian life was a little difficult for me to adjust. I didn't really have any purpose, didn't it was kind of like, in a sense, my identity itself was I am a US Army soldier, and now I'm no longer that. You know, I'm just a civilian, a father, and at the time a husband who was trying to figure out what to do in life. And at that time I really didn't even know who I was as a human being. You know, as time passed on, I started to kind of know who I was, what I like, what I don't like. And for me, it's a forever evolving process. I'm you know, still doing it, still kind of learning what I like, what I don't like. Things change, you know. Actually, even doing these videos is kind of a challenge to myself, as you know, like I said, I've kind of had insecurities growing up, confidence, stuff like that. So I try and find things that kind of push that. And for me, it's just an evolution of character as a human being, which I feel like as a person, you should always be looking for something to challenge you and grow. Never ever avoid it. Don't shy away from it, but always try and find something new for you to push to, right? Let me see. Check my notes real quick, guys. So, got out the military, was trying to find a transition to what I needed to do in life. I was a contractor, a government contractor for a bit. Then I changed occupations. I really can't talk too much about my occupation. For my regular 9 to 5, I do have a regular 9 to 5, and I also do real estate. So somewhere between 2020 and 2023, I got my real estate license. I decided to, hey, you know, what can I do to help those around me? And I had a cousin growing up who was a realtor, and he isn't really blood cousin. He's kind of cousin by marriage. So he was kind of a little bit of inspiration for me. And the individual who helped me buy my home that I'm currently living now, who's also a realtor, was an inspiration as well. I like the way these guys carried themselves, how they helped people out, how they were genuinely, you know, trying to help you out. They weren't sugarcoating nothing. They gave the truth. This is what you got to do. And, you know, I had a lot of knowledge, and I decided to, hey, you know, I too would like to help people out. And, you know, buying my first home, being able to provide a better quality of life for my children, I would like to give that to others, you know. And like I had said earlier in the video, that's kind of the reason why I did become a realtor, to be able to help others. I'm all about helping others grow knowledge, whether it's finances, physical fitness, spirituality, whatever way. You know, I believe as a human being, scared the shit out of me. As a human being, um, if you're not, I want to say constantly, but if you're not in some way, shape, or form contributing to this world, then you might be. not doing something right. Of course, this is my perspective, my opinion. I'm not saying that you guys aren't living right or you're not doing things right. This is just my perspective, in my opinion. So, got into real estate, have had a good 9 to 5, got into real estate, and life happens, life grows. I started to see and realize that this relationship that I was in, my last marriage, it just wasn't really what I wanted for a lot of reasons. I decided to, pull the plug. Um, I took a lot of things into consideration, my children and all this, and unfortunately, this was the best choice for me to do as a father and as a human being for the betterment of everything. Nothing against my ex-wife. We're all individuals. People just have different perspectives. People just have different priorities, and people just have a different way of living life. And yeah, I mean, that's it. That kind of sent me to a downward spiral for a bit. I'm not saying it was easy. I'm not gonna sit here and say that, oh, once I initiated a divorce and everything was wonderful and great. It was a struggle. I fall in 2022. So I had to grieve a 12-year relationship, for whatever that is worth. It wasn't easy, guys. I'm not saying it's a piece of cake. I'm not saying it's a walk in the park. But what I am saying is it was something hard that I had to do in my life in order for me to grow as a human being. And like I said, best interest for my family, my kids. Um, so kind of went down a dark road there for a bit, and started turning it around. The path I took wound me up in the hospital with a lot of health complications. Was diagnosed with diabetes, high blood pressure, all just bad choices, eating terrible, drinking too much, other extracurricular activities, just wasn't living right, wasn't doing things right. And essentially, what I was trying to avoid for my children is what I ended up becoming for a while, which is a terrible example, you know. And it's little by little that, hospital visit, kind of putting things in realization to where I'm mad in life and have nobody to blame but myself and my choices. Kind of clicked the light bulb in my head, started getting some help, started looking for help here and there and making changes in my life. And that essentially led to where we're at now, me starting my videos, content, pushing myself for growth, constantly looking for growth as a human being, being comfortable, being uncomfortable, correct? And yeah, that's a little bit about myself. This is Efrain Caballero. Just a brief little, 15, 20-minute video. I mean, I don't know how long this is going to be, but this is just a little snapshot. I know it's not a short video. If you do get a chance to watch it to the end, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Again, Efrain Caballero, Legacy Agency. I hope you find your forever home. That means your budget, vision, and lifestyle. And I'm also a human being who's had ups and downs in life. Just wanted to connect with you guys. Hope you guys have a great Saturday.